banner gifts that take you to some shady websites that have nothing to do with anything. AdSense revolutionized advertisement. It's one of the greatest inventions in recent history because it allows us for free to have access to all these kinds of services. So ads fuel a lot of really powerful services. And at its best, it's showing you relevant ads, but also very importantly, in a way that's not super annoying, right? In a classy way. So when do you think it's possible to add ads into AI mode? And what does that look like from a classy, non-annoying perspective?
Two things. Early part of AI mode will obviously focus more on the organic experience to make sure we are getting it right. I think the fundamental value of ads are it enables access to deploy the services to billions of people. The second is ads are the reason we've always taken ads seriously is we view ads as commercial information, but it's still information. And so we bring the same quality metrics to it. I think with AI mode, to our earlier conversation about, I think AI itself will help us over time figure out, the best way to do it. I think given we are giving context around everything, I think it'll give us more opportunities to also explain, okay, here's some commercial information. Like today, as a podcaster, you do it at certain spots and you probably figure out what's best in your podcast. I think so. There are aspects of that, but I think the underlying need of people value commercial information. Businesses are trying to connect to users. All that doesn't change in an AI moment. But look, we will rethink it. You've seen us in YouTube now do a mixture of subscription and ads. Like obviously, we are now introducing subscription offerings across everything. And so as part of that, we can optimize. The optimization point will end up being a different place as well.
Do you see a trajectory in the possible future where AI mode completely replaces the 10 blue links plus AI overview?
Our current plan is AI mode is going to be there as a separate tab for people who really want to experience that. But it's not yet at the level where our main search page is. But as features work, we'll keep migrating it to the main page. And so you can view it as a continuum. AI mode will offer you the bleeding edge experience, but things that work will keep overflowing to AI overviews and the main experience.
And the idea that AI mode will still take you to the web, to the human created web.
Yes, that's going to be a core design principle for us.
So really, if users decide, right, they drive this.
Yeah.
It's just exciting, a little bit scary that it might change the internet. Because Google has been dominating with a very specific look and idea of what it means to have the internet. And as you move to AI mode, I mean, it's just a different experience. I think Liz was talking about, I think you've mentioned that you ask more questions, you ask longer questions.
Dramatically different types of questions.
Yeah, like it actually fuels curiosity. Like I think for me, I've been asking just a much larger number of questions of this black box machine, let's say, whatever it is. And with AI overview, it's interesting because I still value the human. I still ultimately want to end up on the human created web. But like you said, the context really helps.
It helps us deliver higher quality referrals, right? Where people are like, they have much higher likelihood of finding what they're looking for. They're exploring, they're curious, their intent is getting satisfied more. So that's what all our metrics show.
It makes the humans that create the web nervous. The journalists are getting nervous. They've already been nervous. Like we mentioned, CNN is nervous because of podcasts. It makes people nervous.
Look, I think news and journalism will play an important role, in the future. We're pretty committed to it, right? And so I think making sure that ecosystem, in fact, I think we'll be able to differentiate ourselves as a company over time because of our commitment there. So it's something I think, I definitely value a lot. And as we are designing, we'll continue prioritizing approaches.
I'm sure for the people who want, they can have a fine-tuned AI model that's clickbait hit pieces that will replace current journalism. That's a shot at journalism, forgive me. But I find that if you're looking for really strong criticism of things, that Gemini is very good at providing that.
Oh, absolutely.
It's better than anything for now. I mean, people are concerned that there will be bias that's introduced, that as the AI systems become more and more powerful, there's incentive from sponsors to roll in and try to control the output of the AI models. But for now, the objective criticism that's provided is way better than journalism. Of course, the argument is that journalists are still valuable, but then I don't know, the crowdsourced journalism that we get on the open internet is also very, very powerful.
I feel like they're all super important things. I think it's good that you get a lot of crowdsourced information coming in, but I feel like there is real value for high quality journalism, right? And I think these are all complementary. I think like I view it as I find myself constantly seeking out also like try to find objective reporting on things too. And sometimes you get more context from the crowdfunded sources you read online. But I think both end up playing a super important role.
So there's you've spoken a little about this. Demis talked about this sort of the slice of the web that will increasingly become about providing information for agents. So we can think about as like two layers of the web. One is for humans, one is for agents. Do you see the AI agents? Do you see the one that's for AI agents growing over time? Do you see there still being long term, 5-10 years value for the human created for the purpose of human consumption web, or will it all be agents in the end?
And today, like not everyone does, but you go to you go to a big retail store, you love walking the aisle, you love shopping, or grocery store, picking out food, etc. But you're also online shopping and they're delivering, right? So both are complementary, and like that's true for restaurants, etc. So I do feel like over time, websites will also get better for humans. They will be better designed. AI might actually design them better for humans. So I expect the web to get a lot richer and more interesting and better to use. At the same time, I think there'll be an agentic web, which is also making a lot of progress. And you have to solve the business value and the incentives to make that work well, right? Like for people to participate in it. But I think both will coexist. And obviously, the agents may not need the same, I mean, not may not, they won't need the same design and the UI paradigms which humans need to interact with. But I think both will be there.
I have to ask you about Chrome. I have to say, for me personally, Google Chrome was probably, I don't know, I'd like to see where I would rank it. But in this temptation, and this is not recency bias, although it might be a little bit, but I think it's up there, top 3, maybe the number 1 piece of software for me of all time. So it's incredible. It's really incredible. The browsers are a window to the web, and Chrome really continued for many years, but even initially to push the innovation on that front when it was stale, and it continues to challenge. It continues to make it more performant, so efficient, just innovate constantly. And the Chromium aspect of it. Anyway, you were one of the pioneers of Chrome, pushing for it when it was an insane idea, probably one of the ideas that was criticized and doubted and so on. So can you tell me the story of what it took to push for Chrome? What was your vision?
Look, it was such a dynamic time, around 2004, 2005, with Ajax, the web suddenly becoming dynamic. In a matter of few months, Flickr, Gmail, Google Maps all kind of came into existence, right? Like the fact that you have an interactive, dynamic web. The web was evolving from simple text pages, simple HTML, to rich dynamic applications. But at the same time, you could see the browser was never meant for that world, right? Like JavaScript execution was super slow. Uh, you know, the, the browser was far away from being an operating system for that rich modern web, which was coming into place. So that's the opportunity we saw. Like, it's an amazing early team. I still remember the day we got a shell on WebKit running and how fast it was. We had a clear vision for building a browser. Like we wanted to bring core OS principles into the browser, right? Like, so we built a secure browser, sandbox. Each tab was its own. These things are common now, but at the time, like it was pretty unique. We found an amazing team in Aarhus, Denmark, with a leader who built a V8, the JavaScript VM, which at the time was 25 times faster than any other JavaScript VM out there. And by the way, you're right. We open sourced it all, and put it in Chromium too. But we really thought the web could work much better, much faster, and you could be much safer browsing the web. And the name Chrome came was because we literally felt people were like the Chrome of the browser was getting clunkier. We wanted to minimize it. And so that was the origins of the project. Definitely, obviously, highly biased person here talking about Chrome, but it's the most fun I've had building a product from the ground up, and it was an extraordinary team. Had my co-founders in the project were terrific, so definite fond memories.
So for people who don't know, Sundar, I mean, it's probably fair to say you're the reason we have Chrome. Yes, I know there's a lot of incredible engineers, but pushing for it inside a company that probably was opposing it because it's a crazy idea. Because as everybody probably knows, it's incredibly difficult to build a browser.
Look, Eric, who was the CEO at the time, I think it was less that he was opposed to it. He kind of firsthand knew what a crazy thing it is to go build a browser. And so he definitely was like, this is, there was a crazy aspect to actually wanting to go build a browser. But um, he was very supportive. Everyone, all the founders were. I think once we started, building something and we could use it and see how much better, from then on, you're really tinkering with the product and making it better. It came to life pretty fast.
What wisdom do you draw from that? From pushing through on a crazy idea in the early days that ends up being revolutionary? What for future crazy ideas like it?
I mean, this is something Larry and Sergey have articulated clearly. I really internalized this early on, which is, their whole feeling around working on moonshots, like as a way, when you work on something very ambitious, first of all, it attracts the best people, right? So that's an advantage you get. Number two, because it's so ambitious, you don't have others working on something crazy. So you pretty much have the path to yourselves, right? It's like Waymo and self-driving. Number three, it is, even if you end up quite not accomplishing what you set out to do, and you end up doing 60-80% of it, it'll end up being a terrific success. So that's the advice I would give people, right? I think it's just aiming for big ideas has all these advantages, and it's risky, but it also has all these advantages which people I don't think fully internalize.
I mean, you mentioned one of the craziest, biggest moonshots, which is Waymo. It's one when I first saw over a decade ago a Waymo vehicle, a Google self-driving car vehicle. It was for me. It was an aha moment for robotics. It made me fall in love with robotics even more than before. It gave me a glimpse into the future. So it's incredible. I'm truly grateful for that project for what it symbolizes. But it's also a crazy moonshot. It's for a long time. Waymo has been just like you mentioned with scuba diving, just not listening to anybody, just calmly improving the system better and better, more testing, just expanding the operational domain more and more. First of all, congrats on 10 million paid robotaxi rides. What lessons do you take from Waymo about like the perseverance, the persistence on that project?
I look really proud of the progress we have had with Waymo. One of the things I think we were very committed to, the final 20% can look like, we always say, right, the first 80% is easy, the final 20% takes 80% of the time. I think we definitely were working through that phase with Waymo, but I was aware of that. So, but we knew we were at that stage. We knew we were the technology gap between, while there were many people, many other self-driving companies, we knew the technology gap was there. In fact, right at the moment when others were doubting Waymo is when I don't know, made the decision to invest more in Waymo, right? Because so in some ways it's counterintuitive, but I think, look, we've always been a deep technology company, and uh, Waymo is a version of kind of building a AI robot that works well, and so we get attracted to problems like that. The caliber of the teams there, phenomenal teams. And so I know you followed the space super closely. I'm talking to someone who knows the space well, but it was very obvious it's going to get there, and there's still more work to do. But it's a good example where we always prioritized being ambitious and safety at the same time, right? And equally committed to both, and pushed hard, and couldn't be more thrilled with how it's working, how much people love the experience. And this year is definitely, we've scaled up a lot and we'll continue scaling up in 26.
That said, the competition is heating up. You've been friendly with Elon, even though technically he's a competitor, but you've been friendly with a lot of tech CEOs in that way, just showing respect towards them and so on. What do you think about the robotaxi efforts that Tesla is doing? Do you see it as competition? What do you think? Do you like the competition?
We are one of the earliest and biggest backers of SpaceX as Google. Right. So, thrilled with what SpaceX is doing and fortunate to be investors as a company there. Right. And look, we don't compete with Tesla directly. We are not making cars, etc. Right. We are building L4-5 autonomy. We're building a Waymo driver, which is general purpose and can be used in many settings. They're obviously working on making Tesla self-driving too. I've just assumed it's a de facto that Elon would succeed in whatever he does. So, like, that is not something I question. So, but I think we are so far from these spaces are such vast spaces. Like, I think about transportation, the opportunity space. The Waymo driver is a general purpose technology we can apply in many situations. So you have a vast green space. Uh, in all future scenarios, I see Tesla doing well and Waymo doing well.
Like we mentioned with the Neolithic package, I think it's very possible that in the quote unquote AI package, when the history is written, autonomous vehicles, self-driving cars is like the big thing that changes everything. Imagine over a period of a decade or two, just the complete transition from manually driven to autonomous in ways we might not predict. It might change the way we move about the world completely. So that, the possibility of that, and then the second and third order effects, as you're seeing now with Tesla, very possibly you would see some internally with Alphabet, maybe Waymo, maybe some of the Gemini robotics stuff. It might lead you into the other domains of robotics. Because we should remember that Waymo is a robot.
Mm-hmm.
It just happens to be on 4 wheels. So you said that the next big thing, we can also throw that into AI package. The big aha moment might be in the space of robotics. What do you think that would look like?
Demis and the Google DeepMind team is very focused on Gemini robotics, right? So
Yeah.
we are definitely building the underlying models well. So we have a lot of investments there. And I think we're also pretty cutting edge in our research there. So we are definitely driving that direction. We obviously are thinking about applications in robotics. We'll kind of work seriously. We are partnering with a few companies today, but it's an area I would say stay tuned. We are yet to fully articulate our plans outside, but it's an area we are definitely committed to driving a lot of progress. But I think AI ends up driving that massive progress in robotics. The field has been held back for a while. I mean, the hardware has made extraordinary progress. The software had been the challenge, but with AI now and the generalized models we are building, we are building these models, getting them to work in the real world in a safe way, in a generalized way, is the frontier we're pushing pretty hard on.
Well, it's really nice to see the models and the different teams integrated to where all of them are pushing towards one world model that's being built. So from all these different angles, multimodal, you're ultimately trying to get Gemini. So the same thing that would make AI mode really effective in answering your questions, which requires a kind of world model, is the same kind of thing that would help a robot be useful in the physical world. So everything's aligned.
That is what makes this moment so unique, because running a company, for the first time, you can do one investment in a very deep horizontal way, on top of which you can drive multiple businesses forward, right? And that's effectively what we are doing in Google and Alphabet, right?
Yeah, it's all coming together like it was planned ahead of time, but it's not, of course. It's all distributed. I mean, if Gmail and Sheets and all these other incredible services, I can sing Gmail praises for years. I mean, just revolutionized email. But the moment you start to integrate AI Gemini into Gmail, I mean, that's the other thing. Speaking of productivity multiplier, people complain about email, but that changed everything. Email, like the invention of email, changed everything. And it's been ripe. There's been a few folks trying to revolutionize email, some of them on top of Gmail, but that's like ripe for innovation. Not just spam filtering, but you demoed a really nice demo of
personalized responses, right?
Personalized responses. And at first I felt really bad about that. But then I realized that there's nothing wrong to feel bad about, because the example you gave is when a friend asks, you went to whatever hiking location, do you have any advice? And they just search us through all your information to give them good advice, and then you put the cherry on top, maybe some love or whatever, camaraderie. But the informational aspect, the knowledge transfer does for you.
I think there'll be important moments. Like it should be like today, if you write a card in your own handwriting and send it to someone, that's a special thing. Similarly, there'll be a time, I mean, to your friends, maybe your friend wrote and said he's not doing well or something. Those are moments you want to save your times for writing something, reaching out, but, like saying, give me all the details of the trip you took, to me makes a lot of sense for a AI assistant to help you, right? And so I think both are important, but I think I'm excited about that direction.
Yeah, I think ultimately it gives more time for us humans to do the things we humans find meaningful. And I think it scares a lot of people because we're going to have to ask ourselves the hard question of, like, what do we find meaningful? And I'm sure there's answers. I mean, it's the old question of the meaning of existence. Is you have to try to figure that out. That might be ultimately parenting or being creative in some domains of art or writing, and it challenges to like, it's a good question to ask yourself, like, in my life, what is the thing that brings me most joy and fulfillment? And if I'm able to actually focus more time on that, that's really powerful.
I think that's that's the holy grail. If you get this right, I think it allows more people to find that.
I have to ask you, on the programming front, AI is getting really good at programming. Gemini, both the agentic and just the LLM, has been incredible. So a lot of programmers are really worried that they will lose their jobs. How worried should they be? And how should they adjust so they can be thriving in this new world where more and more code is written by AI?
I think a few things. Looking at Google, we've given various stats around, like, 30% of code now uses like AI generated suggestions or whatever it is. But the most important metric, and we carefully measure it, is like how much has our engineering velocity increased as a company due to AI, right? And it's like tough to measure, and we kind of rigorously try to measure it. And our estimates are that number is now at 10%, right? Like now across the company, we've accomplished a 10% engineering velocity increase using AI. But we plan to hire more engineers next year, right? So because the opportunity space of what we can do is expanding too, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I think hopefully, for at least in the near to midterm, for many engineers, it frees up more and more of the, even in engineering and coding, there are aspects which are so much fun. You're designing, you're architecting, you're solving a problem. There's a lot of grunt work, which all goes hand in hand. But it hopefully takes a lot of that away, makes it even more fun to code, frees you up more time to create, problem solve, brainstorm with your fellow colleagues, and so on, right? So that's the opportunity there. And second, I think, like, it'll attract, it'll put the creative power in more people's hands, which means people will create more. That means there'll be more engineers doing more things. So it's tough to fully predict, but I think in general in this moment, it feels like people adopt these tools and be better programmers. Like there are more people playing chess now than ever before, right? So it feels positive that way to me, at least speaking from within a Google context, is how I would talk to them about it.
I just know anecdotally a lot of great programmers are generating a lot of code.
Yeah.
So their productivity, they're not always using all the code, just, there's still a lot of editing. But like, even for me, I'm still programming as a side thing. I think I'm like 5x more productive. I think that's even for a large code base that's touching a lot of users like Google's does. I'm imagining like very soon that productivity should be going up even more.
The big unlock will be as we make the agentic capabilities much more robust, right? I think that's what unlocks that next big wave. I think the 10% is like a massive number. Like, if tomorrow, like, I showed up and said, like,
yeah,
you can improve like a large organization's productivity by 10% when you have tens of thousands of engineers, that's a phenomenal number. And that's different than what others cite as statistics saying like this percentage of code is now written by AI. I'm talking more about like overall
Actual
our
productivity.
actual productivity, right? Engineering productivity, which is two different things, and which is the more important metric. And but I think it'll get better, right? And I think there's no engineer who tomorrow, if you magically became 2x more productive, just going to create more things. You're going to create more value-added things, and so I think you'll find more satisfaction in your job, right? So,
and there's a lot of aspects. I mean, the actual Google code base might just improve because it'll become more standardized, more easier for people to move about the code base because AI will help with that, and therefore that will also allow the AI to understand the entire code base better, which makes the engineering aspect. So I've been using Cursor a lot,
yeah,
as a way to program with Gemini and other models. Is like one of its powerful things is it's aware of the entire code base, and that allows you to ask questions of it. It allows the agents to move about that code base in a really powerful way. I mean, that's a huge unlock.
think about migrations, refactoring old code bases.
Refactoring it.
Yeah, I mean, think about once we can do all this in a much better, more robust way than where we are today.
I think in the end, everything will be written in JavaScript and run in Chrome. I think it's all going to that direction. I mean, just for fun, Google has legendary coding interviews, like rigorous interviews for the engineers. How can you comment on how that has changed in the era of AI? It's just such a weird, the whiteboard interview, I assume, is not allowed to have some prompts.
Such a good question. Look, I do think, we're making sure, we'll introduce at least one round of in-person interviews for people
Yeah.
just to make sure the fundamentals are there. I think that'll end up being important. But it's an equally important skill. Look, if you can use these tools to generate better code, I think that's an asset. And so, I think so. Overall, I think it's a massive positive.
Vibe coding engineer. Do you recommend people, students interested in programming, still get an education in computer science, college education? What do you think?
I do. If you have a passion for computer science, I would. Computer science is obviously a lot more than programming alone. So I would. I still don't think I would change what you pursue. I think AI will horizontally impact every field. It's pretty tough to predict in what ways. So any education in which you're learning good first principles thinking, I think is good education.
You've revolutionized web browsing. You've revolutionized a lot of things over the years. Android changed the game. It's an incredible operating system. We could talk for hours about Android. What does the future of Android look like? Is it possible it becomes more and more AI centric, especially now that you throw into the mix Android XR with being able to do augmented reality and mixed reality and virtual reality in the physical world?
The best innovations in computing have come when you're through a paradigm IO change, right? Like, when with GUI and then with a graphical user interface and then with multi-touch in the context of mobile, voice later on. Similarly, I feel like, AR is that next paradigm. I think it was held back. Both the system integration challenges of making good AR is very, very hard. The second thing is you need AI to actually otherwise the IO is too complicated. For you to have a natural, seamless IO to that paradigm, AI ends up being super important. And so this is why Project Astra ends up being super critical for that Android XR world. But it is, I think, when you use glasses and always been amazed, like at the how useful these things are going to be. So I think it's a real opportunity for Android. I think XR is one way it'll kind of really come to life. But I think there's an opportunity to rethink the mobile OS too, right? I think we've been kind of living in this paradigm of like apps and shortcuts, all that won't go away. But again, like if you're trying to get stuff done at an operating system level, it needs to be more agentic so that you can kind of describe what you want to do, or like it proactively understands what you're trying to do, learns from how you're doing things over and over again, and kind of is adapting to you. All that is kind of like the unlock we need to go and do.
With a basic, efficient, minimalist UI. I've gotten a chance to try the glasses and they're incredible. It's the little stuff. It's hard to put into words, but no latency. It just works. Even that little map demo where you look down and you look up, and there's a very smooth transition between the two, and useful, very small amount of useful information is shown to you. Enough not to distract from the world outside, but enough to provide a bit of context when you need it. And some of that